what you guys have going on. So before we jump in, you know me, I got to talk just a little bit. I have to brag on Team Lightning and what they have accomplished over the last 2 months. I mean, it blows my hair back. That's what kind of activity is going on. And as I was thinking about, well, first I'm going to give you the statistics, and then I'm going to tell you a couple more things. So here's some statistics on Team Lightning and why we want them to share what they're doing, because success leaves clues. And I don't know about you, but I want to learn as much as I can from people who are having extraordinary success. And so November 6th, on my PBC report on November, close of the month of November, their total team volume went from 6,051 to close out of January, 13,404, with a 122% growth in their business. 122% growth over a 2-month time frame. If you're on Team Lightning, just raise your hand so that we all can just give you a high five, clap. What a remarkable growth in a 2-month time frame, 122% growth. Now, what made up that growth? 20% growth in partners. You got to have workers to be able to produce that kind of growth. So their partner growth grew by 20%. Their customers grew by 95%. So they went from 91 total team customers to 177 customers in a 2-month time frame, which represented a 95% growth. Now they had 122% growth on the team, 95% growth in customers. So why aren't those two matching? You know what that tells me? They upsell. They're doing upselling. So they're not just doing fruit and vegetable. They're getting more than fruit and vegetable, Trio, Omega, and it tells me they've gone back to their current customers and got their current customers. I see Sandy shaking her head. Current customers and probably some Tower Gardens. So you guys, let's embrace it all, man. I mean, I can't wait to hear more from you guys, but that difference in 122% and 95% tells me there's more to the story, and we can't wait to hear it. They doubled their qualifiers. And so they went from 2 qualifiers to 4, with 4 more within that should hit this month. So they should go this month, go from 2 to at least 7 qualifiers in a 3-month time frame. I mean, it's like growth across the board. This in the 2-month time frame, they promoted out a qualifying senior sales coordinator, a sales coordinator, 2 QSCs, 5 P pluses, and added 4 new partners. Is that some serious growth in a 2-month time frame? I am blown away. And the cherry on the top of this beautiful Sunday is, as a team, they earned in bonuses alone, not profit and commissions, just bonuses for hitting the positions right around $4,000 as a team. That is some serious growth. And I'm going to turn it over to Sandy Horn to say, how you doing it? Share it with the rest of us. We can't wait to hear what you guys are doing.
Thanks. Blows my mind a little bit myself. So can you hear me okay? Awesome. So a couple of things. Never forget where you came from. A student is not greater than their teacher. You can't be like me, take what you like and make it your own. When you learn, you teach. Those were some of the fundamental core teachings that I learned from mentors, from instructors and from teachers that I've had over the years. I just want to give a little brief history. At 15 years old, I became a lifeguard. At 16 years old, I became a head lifeguard. And at 20 years old, I became an aquatics director, which was a lot of responsibility for somebody that age. Did I have some special skills or abilities? No. I had to work hard to get some of those certifications, but I showed up. I wanted to improve, and I wanted to learn from others that were successful in my field. And it turned into 30 years of instructing a life skill that I'm still passionate about today. At times, whether because I was in a manager position, whether I was in an instructor position, or even in an instructor trainer position, I had to take people by the hand and I had to reassure them that they could do this. I would give a skill and have them master that skill, and then we would build on another skill and move on to the next skill without trying to overwhelm them. The goal was to keep adding a skill so that they felt confident and they wouldn't quit. Because my experience proved that when people are overwhelmed or they do not have a clear understanding, that's when they quit. Which leads me to 6 months ago when I partnered with, 6 years ago, when I partnered with Juice Plus. I saw the potential of the business and the growth, but that was not my skill set. I had a supportive upline, but I didn't have a team. So I had to learn a new skill set. So I listened to motivating NMDs and their stories. And I thought to myself, if they can do it, I can do it. If they can do it, I can do it. And they became my mentors. And some of them are on this call right now, and they didn't even know it. And I was their student. I was encouraged to touch Juice Plus every day for 5 minutes. I was still working outside of the home. And that's what I did, whether it was texting somebody, watching a video, starting a short conversation with somebody, and it worked. I was consistently doing this and I was gaining customers. I was learning more about the business. It was slow, but it was consistent. One thing that all the NMDs that I would listen to talked about was events. So that's what I set out to do. I had a friend, a mutual friend that you'll find out later. I found out about this where I could become a vendor. I had done a couple of events, but I found out about this one with a lot of medical professionals. And I got to go into this event. And that's where I met Debbie and Maura. I was friendly, they were friendly, but honestly, at the time, it was nothing more than, hi, nice to meet you. But sometimes a smile is all you need. So this mutual friend called me a little while later. Now, she had partnered with Juice Plus, but on another team. But surprisingly, Debbie and Maura wanted to partner with me after just a brief conversation, because they knew that I was working Juice Plus consistently. So I was surprised and I was super excited because these were my first partners. So right off the block, we started out having events. They were very successful, hence the name Team Lightning. So what did I do? I set up Voxer chats and I set up a team meeting. I was still learning my way through the business, and honestly, at times it was a little overwhelming. I was listening to coaching chat replays, and I did keep in touch with my partners, and I tried to pass along what I knew. So when I learn, then I teach. And I was doing the best that I could at the time. I was still growing, but it was a little slow. I would listen to these podcasts or these Juice Plus webinars to get motivation from these successful NMDs. And I still thought to myself, if they can do it, I can do it. At this point, the team meetings had virtually come to a halt. And sometimes I was the only one that was there, but I had them, not with myself, but I set it up. But I knew I had to make some changes. Juice Plus, if I wanted Juice Plus to grow with the potential that I knew that it had, then I had to devote more time. So I transferred my out-of-home hours to in-home Juice Plus hours. I was able to regularly attend the coaching chats in person and encourage the team to do the same. Come on, let's go to these coaching chats. I had to be there and be regular if I wanted the team to come along and learn with me. Juice Plus has fantastic tools, videos, webinars, coaching chats, newsletters, there's personal development courses. I was able to be a part of some of that. They have the tools to help us to build our confidence while we are presenting ourselves. So the growth was happening. Set up team meetings again and encouraged everybody on the team to join Voxer because this is how we were going to keep in touch as a team. Our team meetings are set up for 30-minute meetings. For those that are not able to join the coaching chats, I briefly go over the main points from the coaching chats because I don't want to overwhelm anybody with too much information. So again, I started with just basic skills. Even though most of the team was at Partner Plus, I went back to Partner. I wanted to meet everybody where they were at, but help them to build confidence of what it takes to go from Partner to Partner Plus so that they could explain it. What was the commissions? What was the bonus? Should everyone become a partner? We want lifelong customers. That's how we're going to grow. Then, because most of the team was at Partner Plus, I camped out at Partner Plus to QSC, qualifying sales coordinator, also using lingo that everybody would get familiar with. What do you need to go from Partner Plus to QSC? What's the motivator? A pay increase. What are the bonuses? Again, that secret sauce we knew was having events. We agreed as a team to have monthly events early in the month, early in the week. Now we were gaining customers and partners. This gave us time. If we had to contact somebody throughout the month, we had time to do that. During our team meeting now, most everybody got to QSC. So now where did we have to camp out? We had to talk about what does it mean to be qualified? What does the Juice Plus look at when they say you're qualified? What does that lingo mean? So what does it mean? What are our numbers that we have to look at? Not only that, what is this 3% PB? What does that mean? So I had to explain what that means. We wanted everybody to look at their dashboards, understand what it means when it says paid, understand what it means when it says pending. What was the difference that you need? So each week we stayed on one position, one promotion. We started to see consistent growth and we had more confident partners. All of our team will have or have had participation in the events. They are set up for 30 minutes so as not to respect people's time. And we have it set up to where there's an opening, 5-minute opening with a person that has a story and a person that is welcoming everybody to the event and is going to outline or give an outline for the rest of the event. A 15-minute body of the talk that discusses our products and its story included, as well as whatever topic that we're discussing that will lend right into the products. A 5-minute story and a business story, come join us, and a 5-minute story with a close. We keep it simple. We keep it regular and we stay consistent. We're building confidence in how we present ourselves during these events because each of us take a turn. We all share. As Elaine already stated, obviously our team is gaining momentum, but we're consistently at the coaching chats. We're having our team meetings and we are having events. Now that's going to lend into Maura, who's going to give you more of the specialized training that she does for the team.
Thank you, Sandy. That was excellent. And I have to say, yes, it was the consistency that drew Debbie and I to Sandy's team. I was actually working as a wellness advocate under a nurse who was doing research on how food helps the body. So my head was stuck in the science of food and how it helps the body, how it helps the organs, what it does, how the nutrients get into the body, and so forth. And she kept talking about Juice Plus, and to myself, I'm saying, okay, she's getting off topic. We need to get back on how food helps the body. And she kept saying, well, you know, something else that I learned about Juice Plus, and I'm thinking, yeah. Let's not talk about that right now. Let's talk about what we have on this whiteboard about food and the body. She said, no. What you're missing is Juice Plus is food, and it does get right into the bloodstream and not through the digestion. And when she said that, it was like, what? A light bulb. So that was part of my first introduction. That was slightly before I met Sandy, because we were actually preparing for that event where I met Sandy. And when she said that, and then she introduced us to Sandy and was telling us that Sandy was working Juice Plus and that she was starting to work Juice Plus. We met Sandy, we saw Sandy's presentation, just her setup on the table. We spoke to her briefly, but we were involved in helping the other person with their event. So our concentration was a little bit divided, because here's Sandy at the other end of our table, and here we are at the opposite end, you know, and basically it started to resonate that we were both talking about the same thing, only we had food and she had Juice Plus. And that's where I actually visually was able to see, because prior to that, I was never able to see the products. But that's where I was actually able to get the visual that Juice Plus was not juice, but that it was capsules. And so that really then really made me think. But fast forward, so all of what Sandy said, and then last year. So last year was an interesting year for everybody. But as I got to the end of the year, I recognized that I needed to make a shift, because I had folks on my team, and in order for me to make a shift, they needed to make a shift. I did not want to do anything and leave them behind, leave them unprepared, and leave them stuck looking for information, the way that I felt when I first started getting to know Juice Plus. And it was only because I didn't know where things were. There were so many different places to look. So I recognized that I needed to hurry up and do something quickly so that my team would be able to, in a way of speaking, fast pace themselves into actively working their businesses. And now we're several independent arms as opposed to one head and then many parts of a body. So I recognize, okay, if I'm going to lead this team, my own team, then I need to train them. And so that's when I recognized the need to look for some self-development for myself. And I went to an Eric Worre webinar, which was very interesting. A light bulb went off when he said 90 days. And so that's where it's not an original idea, but it's an idea that has a lot of potential. At first, I thought 90 days was too much. Then I thought, well, 90 days actually builds a quarter worth of consistency, which is what attracted me to Sandy's team to begin with. And so I need to follow suit. So I decided to invite my team members, whoever wanted to participate. This was strictly voluntary. And whoever wanted to participate could join me every morning. And what I decided to do was I'll be on Zoom for 1 hour every morning. That will be my personal 90-day run. And I'm going to build some things in myself. I know areas where I'm weak, areas that need strengthening. So I'm going to be doing some things for myself. But whoever wants to join me, I wasn't really sure what kind of buy-in I was going to get, but whoever was going to join me was welcome. And even if it was jumping on for a few questions and then jumping off, I would be there every day for 1 hour. And when I sent out the text message that invited everyone to participate if they were open to it, I was really surprised at how many people responded. Almost my whole team responded. And so January 1st, I told them January 1st, we're going to begin and we're going to go to March 31st. So I also gave them the option to not show up on the weekends. So I said, you know, the weekends are really your time. You have the option. I'll be on Zoom, but you have the option to do what you need to do on Saturday and Sunday mornings. And if you can't make it on Saturday or Sunday, I'll see you on Monday morning and I'll be there still every day. Well, they showed up on Saturday, January 1st, they showed up, everybody. On Sunday, everybody showed up. On Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, everybody showed up. That next Saturday, everybody showed up. I was really surprised, but happy at the same time. For me, it meant that what I was giving them each of those days was sufficient for them to want to come back for more. But it was also beneficial for them because they felt like they were getting some value out of what I was sharing with them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through my first 2 sessions briefly and let you see what I did. Okay, a little bit of this is going to be a repeat from what I said last week, but I'm actually going to share the video that I shared with them, a portion of that video with you, so that you can see the impact that it could have even on your team members as well. Okay, so I'm just going to share my screen here. So Sandy mentioned you can't be me, but the caveat that I put on there is maybe you can't be me, but you can follow what I do. You can imitate what I'm doing, okay? If I'm doing some good things that are valuable to you, then follow those things. And in order for me to be able to show you properly, I have to set the right example. So leading by example is what I'm trying to do for my team. And then in turn, what's happening is we're building confidence in the Juice Plus business, as opposed to getting stuck or being paralyzed in our movement, in our thinking, or in our action. So the foundation was, when I first started Juice Plus, there were certain things that I was a little bit fearful of. I'm not really an extrovert. I'm more of an introvert, even though that might sound surprising. But I really am. Normally, if I have the option, I will sit behind the scenes as opposed to be in the forefront. But there are certain things with Juice Plus you just can't do. You can't sit in the background and expect anything to happen. So there was, the greatest obstacle for me was breaking out of my typical circle of friends. There's a specific circle of friends that we all have. And every time we start something new, we go to them. But I didn't want to do that this time. I needed to make Juice Plus different. There were so many things that stood out to me about the company and the products that I needed to break out of that. So the same was true for my team. We did not want to go to our typical circle. We didn't want to chase people. We didn't want to be salesy. And in some places, we were a little bit stuck, whether it was in our thinking or what we were doing. So enter Eric Worre and Mel Robbins, and a video that I found in trying to find something that would motivate my team to break that cycle, to break that inaction, the cycle of inaction. Okay. And mostly, really, this was for me because I knew that I needed this. And if I needed it, maybe they felt the same way. So this conversation that I found on YouTube was a conversation between Eric Worre and Mel Robbins about something that she discusses called the 5-second rule. One of the things that I knew that I needed to do during that 90-day period was to give them things that were going to build their confidence, not just show them videos, but then give them tools, have conversations that were actually going to help them break out of that cycle. So I came up with 4 T's: training, a tool, a task, and giving them time to perform the task. This was going to be our method for breaking out of our circle and then making some real progress and then building momentum and keeping it going. So in session 1, this is from my notes. We watched the 5-second rule video and we actually had a group discussion about it. So after we watched a few minutes of it, we discussed what we had grasped from that video. Then I introduced the 4 T's to the team. I reinstated the 100 Conversations Challenge for my team. It was a motivator for me in October, November, and December. And so that was part of where some of our growth came. And so what I wanted to do for my team was allow them to have the opportunity to work towards that goal as well. And I would give them $100 for doing it. But I knew that in the process that it was going to help them to grow and to get customers and to make some big momentum for themselves. And then we would review some simple product talking points, okay? Trying to keep it simple, trying to get them to feel like they knew what they're talking about when it came to talking about the product. So I'm going to share a portion of the video that I shared with them that first day, January 1st.
To do. You're manually switching.
Okay, I'm going to play it a little bit faster than normal because I put it in the chat last week, so some of you may have already had a chance to view it, but they speak a little bit slow in normal speed, so speeding it up is going to allow us to see it a little faster, but we'll still be able to grasp what they're saying.
Hey everybody, Eric Worre here. Welcome to Network Marketing Pro. And today we got a special guest. If you don't recognize her already, this is the one and only Mel Robbins. How you doing, Mel?
I'm all right. Actually, I'm fantastic.
You're actually fantastic.
Yes.
She is fantastic. This woman is a powerhouse. And she spoke at our recent GoPro Recruiting Mastery event. I first heard of her because I spoke at a company convention, network marketing company convention, and we didn't meet that day, but you had spoke earlier in the day. And everybody was raving about 5-second rule, the 5-second rule. I'm like, what the heck is a 5-second rule? Because I hadn't heard about it. And I had tons of people like rushing up to me that day at the airport, everywhere. Like they're like, sorry, it's 5-second rule. I have to talk to you because it's in the 5 seconds. So once I heard about the concept, I was really intrigued because it was an interesting thought. It's like a Malcolm Gladwell thought.
I love that you said that because I have a brain crush on him.
Do you?
Yes.
Like he has his 10,000, whether it's the tipping point thought,
right,
or the 10,000 hours
yep,
thought in order to become an expert. These little tiny things, I don't even remember most of the rest of the book, but I remembered that.
Right.
And it made an impact. And it stayed with it. It was sticky. And I watch people that have engaged in the 5-second rule, and it's sticky.
Yes.
It is. It changes the way fundamentally that they look at life.
Yes.
So tell me how this whole thing, where did it come from?
Oh, it came from the worst moment of my life. So the 5-second rule is one of those amazing things that, first of all, it's so simple, so obvious, and on some level, I'm just going to come right out and say it. It's kind of stupid when you first hear it, and I don't want you to make the mistake of dismissing the power of this thing because it sounds a little silly, obvious, or stupid because there's some ridiculous science behind it. So the bottom line is, short story, 2009, like a lot of people that are watching, my husband and I hit rock bottom. Financially, facing bankruptcy, we were fighting all the time, the liens started to hit the house, and I developed a habit of hitting the snooze button. Now, in the scheme of life, having a habit of hitting the snooze button and getting up late and kind of starting your day off on the wrong foot, it's not that big of a deal in theory. But what you know and what you absolutely are teaching people around the world is that it's actually the smallest moves in your routine and the discipline and the decisions that you make every day that turn you from somebody that just is thinking about doing something to somebody who's a pro at doing something. And so for me, I had this habit of hitting the snooze button all the time. And I was very frustrated because I knew what I should be doing. I knew that successful people don't hit the snooze button every morning. You know, I don't think Richard Branson lays in bed and hits the snooze button 3 or 4 times and then picks up his phone and mainlines Facebook. He's not doing that. You're not doing it either. I knew that at this point in my life, I should be out looking for, you know, another opportunity. I should be reaching out to friends. I should be exercising, but I wasn't doing it. And you see, this is something that the 5-second rule will help you do. It's going to help you bridge the gap between knowing what to do and actually getting off your butt and doing it. And it does it in 5 seconds flat. So what happened, and this is a really dumb story, but this is actually what happened, is I got inspired because I saw a commercial that had a rocket ship launching. And I thought, harebrained idea, I'm just going to launch myself out of bed like a rocket tomorrow morning. I'm going to count backwards like NASA. So the next morning, Lean's on the house, fighting with my husband, all kinds of problems, feeling like a loser. The alarm goes off. I immediately feel like I don't want to get up, but I started counting backwards, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then I stood up. And that was how I discovered it. And I'm going to be honest with you. For the first 2 to 3 years, Eric, that I used it, I had no clue why it worked. It was as if somebody had handed me a magic wand and suddenly I had control over myself. Because what happens when you first start using the 5-second rule, and the way that you use it is this: the moment that you have an instinct to act on a goal. So it's one of those should moments. You know, if you obviously listen to Eric, so you know what you should be doing to grow your business. So all day long, you're going to have that instinct where you're like, oh, this is a cold prospect marketing moment. Here we go. Oh, act like I'm in a hurry and compliment the person. And, you know, if I could, would you? Like, you know the steps to do, right? But the problem is you stop and think. And the moment you stop and think, you're going to get trapped there. So the 5-second rule, you have a should moment. You know what Eric's taught you to do. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, move. Now, what happens when you count backwards, and this is why the rule is crazy, is you're actually leveraging an amazing amount of silence. It's not just a silly little mantra to do. You're manually switching the gears in your brain. So I didn't know this in 2009. All I knew is suddenly I was getting up on time. Suddenly I would 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and walk out the door and get to the gym. I would 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and get in the car and drive to the bank and deal with our financial issues. I would 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and stop myself, Eric, before I snapped at Chris or the kids. I would 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and I would put down the bourbon and walk away after 1 Manhattan, because we all know that after 2, you're not that nice. So nothing good happens. As my husband likes to say to our teenage daughters, nothing good happens after midnight. So make sure you're home by then. And you know, nothing too great happens for sure after the 2nd Manhattan. And in my case, not so great after the first one. So I started to use it to basically interrupt my habits of doubting myself, of overthinking, of hesitating, of grabbing the drink, snapping at the kids, all that kind of emotionally driven behavior.
Defaults.
Yeah, the defaults, completely. It's a way that you can, in a moment where you have that inner wisdom of knowing what you should do, because we all know what we should do. It's actually a tool that you can use to interrupt the default behaviors that are encoded in your basal ganglia. Count backwards, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It does a bunch of remarkable things at once. Number 1, it interrupts the habit loops in your basal ganglia.
What's a basal ganglia?
Basal ganglia is the interior part of your brain. It's the part of the brain where all of your default behavior patterns are encoded.
Okay.
Everything from procrastination to self-doubt to anxiety to the way that you pour your coffee to whether or not you write with your right hand.
All your programming stuff.
Correct. So when I use the word habits, this was all new to me. Habits are nothing more than behaviors that you can do without thinking about it. And 50% of your day, what we know based on research, is about 50% of your days, you're in a default mode. You're on autopilot. Your body is basically just executing habits all day. From how you pour your coffee to how you pull on your pants. You probably put on one leg before the other. You don't even think about it. You do it the same way every day. Believe it or not, self-doubt, hesitating, telling yourself you're afraid to talk to your friends about your business, overthinking the list of calls that you need to make, those can become habits, patterns that are default behaviors that you repeat over and over without even realizing you're doing
So
it.
fascinating, because inside of the network marketing space, it's got to be everywhere in the world. But we deal with people in network marketing, right? All
Yeah.
the time. They have hopes and fears. That's why they joined.
Yes.
And you see some people that just are paralyzed, absolutely paralyzed, and don't know why. They're like, I'm stuck. I just can't seem to do it. And another day goes by. They didn't get fired. They didn't get kicked out of the business. So they can repeat that behavior. But their self-esteem drops and drops
Yes.
and drops and drops.
Yes.
And they're like, I know what I need to do. Why can't I make myself do it?
I know why. Okay, so let me see if I can explain this very succinctly. So the problem is that you have a habit of getting stuck up here. You will never grow your network marketing business by thinking about it. It's not happening. And what I can tell you based on years and years of research, because in trying to figure out why does something 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 so simple create such profound change at not only a behavioral, but a neurological and a mindset and a habit level for people all over the world. The reason why you're having an issue if you feel paralyzed or stuck is because you spend too much time thinking. And thinking too much itself becomes a habit. Now, here's what I want you to understand. The only cure for paralysis, the only cure for fear, The only cure for feeling insecure, the only cure for feeling like a loser, like you're going to fail at this thing, the only cure for the hopes and dreams is action. That's it. And so I love the 5-second rule, and it's so important for you to understand in your business and start to use it because it's not a tool for thinking.
Right.
It's a tool for action. It's a tool that teaches you to catch yourself the moment you start overthinking and feeling paralyzed and doing one of those, this isn't going to work, or you go down and you start thinking about all these things and talking yourself out of it. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It is how you interrupt that pattern of feeling paralyzed. You quiet the self-doubt, you quiet the paralysis, and then you do something humongously important. By counting backwards 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, you have just woken up your prefrontal cortex. Now, the prefrontal cortex, see his beautiful
I
forehead
have a
right
big
here?
one.
Yeah, right there. That's why he's so successful, because it's big and he uses it all the time. The prefrontal cortex is the part of your brain that's active when you're changing behavior, when you're doing something new, when you're doing something that you're excited about, and when you're doing something that's difficult or uncertain. So let me give you an example. I'm a righty. That's a habit. I taught myself and started defaulting to the right hand, right? Now, Eric could tie my hand behind my back and say, Mel, I want you to try to write with your left hand. Now, I could try to write GoPro with my left hand, but it would require this entire part of my brain. My brain would be so focused on trying to make those letters go. And if my son came in and said, hey mom, can I have a grilled cheese? I would literally do one of those, like, I can't talk to you right now because I got to focus and the reason why your prefrontal cortex is firing up is because it's got to use all its power to talk to the hand and direct the new behavior and forge new neural pathways. So what happens when you count backwards, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, is you interrupt the default part of your brain that runs on autopilot and you awaken the part of the brain that you need in order to change or do something new or scary or uncertain. And here's what's really cool. By going 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, you not only outsmart your brain, you also, like that, turn on the part that makes change easy. Look at the special forces. How do they start any exercise with the SEALs? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Look at
Really?
oh yeah. I've had so many military folks, veterans, special forces come up to me and say, oh my gosh, this brought me right back. This is how we would
I've heard
start
of
any
3,
new
2,
exercise.
1, go.
Well, that's also Facebook,
Yeah.
right? You're aligning. If you go into an elementary school, you'll see schools around the world when they have an assembly, the principals and the teachers, they start going 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Before we started, the sound guy.
Yes.
Did a
Yes.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Well, see, you don't count up, by the way. Don't count up. It won't work because you can keep on going. You know, you'll be
Right.
like, yeah, I don't want to do that. And the other reason why counting backwards works is because you don't do it all the time, so it's not a habit. So it requires focus. And here's what's really cool. So let's say you're insecure. You know, we had a woman write to us after being at your GoPro event and seeing me talk about the 5-second rule for 20 minutes. She said, I'm an extrovert, but doing that walk up to strangers, do the cold prospect marketing piece, she said, I just couldn't make myself do it. You used the word paralysis, Eric. I would see somebody, I would know that I should go walk over, and I knew all the steps, but I would suddenly feel paralyzed, and I'd start to doubt myself. She said, I started using the 5-second rule to push myself through that self-doubt. She said, in the beginning, it's shocking because you find yourself doing this stuff that normally you don't do. And she said, the thing that happened over time, and this is the thing that's super cool, is that over time when you use it, counting backwards 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 will not only help you interrupt your self-sabotaging default patterns, but it becomes what psychologists and neurologists call a starting ritual. A starting ritual is a positive pattern that you repeat that triggers your positive behavior. And so what one of your biggest fans wrote to me and said is that she's noticed after about a month of using this, not only has approaching cold prospects and marketing to them and recruiting them into her business become easier, she's also realizing that she's developing confidence. And so this is another really important note about building your business. So I used to believe that confidence was like a personality trait. Not so at all. Confidence is a skill. It's a skill that you build through action. In fact, this is advice that dates all the way back to Aristotle. And there's a very famous psychology professor by the name of Timothy Wilson that's written a lot about confidence. And Aristotle, the saying back to Aristotle used to say, do good, be good. Meaning if you do good acts, you'll start to become good. You do things with action, your mind follows. And so what Timothy Wilson talks about is just thinking. See, when we talk about mindset, yes, thoughts are important, but for those of us that struggle with insecurity, with self-doubt, with feeling paralyzed, it's really hard to think yourself out of that hole. The fastest way to change your mindset is by taking action and proving to yourself through 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, one action at a time, that you can rely on yourself. When this woman was going 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and pushing through paralysis, what she's doing is really important. And it goes way beyond building her business. She's proving to herself that her dreams matter enough to her and she can rely on herself. She's proving to herself that no matter what she might feel in her body or what excuses she might have, that she actually can rely on herself to make it happen. And there's nothing more powerful in life than when you dig yourself out of a mental hole and you become the kind of person that doesn't default to thinking, but that actually defaults to self-trust and to taking action on your dreams. And all you need to do to grow your business is listen to this guy. Like, take every single one of the steps, take all the tools. This is another thing that people do, right? You get handed all these amazing tools.
You don't do anything with
You don't do anything. Or it's the tools problem. I don't like the tools. I don't want to use the tools. I don't like these conversations. They may work for him, but they don't work for me.
Right.
That's another default pattern. You've gotten used to complaining instead of taking action and trying. You see-
Let me
yeah.
let me ask you a question about this. So I'm a big believer in action does help you build self-worth, self-confidence, your own self-esteem.
Yes.
So a person is out there and they're like a scared little mouse right now. You know, they're nervous,
Yes.
but they're like, okay, Mel,
Yes.
I'm gonna give it a try. Next time I feel this little thing, like, nope, I'll do it later. I'll do it someday. I'll do whatever. I'm gonna do 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm just gonna do it.
Yes.
And they do it, and it blows up in their face.
Great.
So
Great.
because sometimes the scared little mouse, when they go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and the line goes rah, and they go right back into their hole, and they don't
Right.
come out again.
Yes.
So I know my answer to this.
Okay.
What's your answer to building this new muscle?
Yes. Okay. So my answer to this is I don't look at life ever as things that you succeed or fail at. I look at life as confidence in my mind and your dreams. They hinge on your willingness to try. That's it. And if you're willing to 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and make a 5-second decision and push yourself to try, you're either going to succeed or you'll survive. But either way, you just took one small step closer. You know, I want you to consider something. Being 41, going to a really fancy Ivy League school, having a law degree, living in a really expensive neighborhood, and facing the prospect of not only blowing up our entire lives, but also taking a lot of other people's money with us as you know, a bunch of businesses that we had were failing. That was as big of a failure that I have ever faced in my entire life. And if I hadn't had that happen, I would never have discovered the 5-second rule. And I think here's the other reason why I love this simple rule so much is that, again, I'm going to go back and start with a simple premise. You're really smart. You may feel paralyzed. You may have self-doubt. You may be nervous about your ability to make your dreams come true. But the truth is, you're actually really smart and you know what to do.
Okay, so that's where we stopped it the first day. Okay, so you're welcome to go and watch the rest of that, but let me just take you through the rest of what we did in that first session. So once we watched that portion, we grabbed some main points out of what we just viewed. And some of the main points that we grabbed was the need to interrupt the habits loop, that default behavior of self-sabotage, and awaken our brain's action button, in a way of speaking. The 5-second rule is a tool for action and not thinking. So not to overthink something, because then we get stuck in that mode. And then the thought that the only cure for paralysis or paralyzation is action. Okay, so prior to sharing this with my team, I actually tried it. And as I mentioned before, I'm not a morning person. I do not rise early. I don't do well with that. But I decided that was what I was going to use the 5-second rule for, to get me up out of bed at 6 o'clock in the morning. In order for me to be prepared for my team by 8, I needed some time to get myself together. So I needed to get up at 6. 6 was not my waking time. Try maybe 4 hours after 6. But I'm a night owl. So I would stay up late getting things done. And then I would sleep it off in the morning and then work, and then be up in the wee hours and then wake up late. So I needed to reverse that, because if I needed to be up for my team at 8 o'clock every morning, then I was going to have to be an early riser. So I tried it the first day and I surprised myself. Actually, the 5-second rule surprised me, because I really wasn't expecting myself to spring up out of my bed, but that's exactly what happened. I counted myself down, and when I hit 0, I popped up out of my bed and my eyes were bright open. And so I said, okay, well, that's nice. Maybe the excitement of it was okay. So let me try it again tomorrow. So the next day I tried it again and sprung right back up out of bed. And it was interesting, because ever since I did that, my body naturally wakes up between 5:30 and 6 o'clock every morning. Now I'm an early riser. I laugh every time I wake up. Sometimes my eyes pop open earlier than that and I have to shut them back again and say, it's not time yet. But I've become an early riser thanks to the 5-second rule. So those were the main points that we took. So after we took those main points, then I gave them the task. So the task on that first day was to write down 3 things that normally paralyze them from action, that paralyzes them from following up, or that seizes their control and then to interrupt that habits loop. Okay? So write down 3 things that normally paralyze you from action or follow up, or that seizes your control. And the objective is you're going to awaken your brain's action button. And so their task was to do that and then review the notes that we had from the video, that we had taken from the video, and then taken from the discussion. And then my task personally was to post that video and the resources that we use for that into the chat for the team to be able to review. If they wanted to watch the video again, watch that segment that we had watched again. The next day, what we did was we reviewed a few points from the previous day's segment of the video that we watched, and then we watched the second half. And then we discussed it again. We had a group discussion, and those group discussions have actually turned into a valuable key to our team session in the morning. We get together every morning for 1 hour, and I have to say a good portion of the session is not just me training, but it's our group discussion, because everybody gets some input, and then we can draw and learn from each other in that discussion. The tool that I gave them that second day were the product fact sheets, making sure everybody had a copy of that, because the easiest way to talk about the product was right from the sheet. So I showed them key areas to look at while they're talking to someone, key points that they could use as they're having a discussion about the products, and then reminding them that the pricing was right at the bottom of the sheet, so they don't have to go looking for the pricing when they're ready to talk to the person about how much the item costs. And then giving them the time to continue completing that task. So task 1 was writing down those 3 things that stopped them. But now in day 2, the new task was to create a list of 5 people outside of your normal circle, okay? And the goal was to even include people on your chicken list. So as you're writing these names down, include people that you're afraid to contact, because remember, the 5-second rule is going to break that barrier of fear and help you to go ahead and move and act. So in the midst of contacting these individuals, the goal was to make a wellness check on each person that you're talking to. That's how you're going to get the conversation open. Start just talking to them about how they're doing. Let them know, I'm working as a wellness advocate and we're making wellness checks. So how are you? And as you ask them how they are, they're going to tell you. And then take good notes. Take good notes on that conversation. Juice Plus may not work itself into that first conversation, but it will work itself into your follow-up. So as they made their first contact, I gave them 24 hours to make that first contact with the person: email, text message, voicemail, or phone call. So that was day 1 and day 2. On day 3, they needed to follow up with anyone that was not contacted, that they had not been able to reach and actually have a conversation with. And then day 4, they're going to follow up with those whom they had contacted and try to continue the conversation. Sometimes you can follow up by saying, the last time we spoke, you mentioned something to me, and I just wanted to kind of follow up on that and ask you a few more questions. Can you tell me a little bit more about whatever it was that they mentioned? And then you may find that in that second or third conversation going forward, that Juice Plus works its way in naturally. So there's no pressure on the person that's selling it, and there's no pressure on the person that's potentially going to buy it. And so this was the method that we've been using from the beginning of January, making these calls, following up, making the calls, following up, making the calls. Every 4 days, we're doing the same cycle. And that primarily has accounted for the growth, the value in what they're getting in the training sessions in the morning, and then taking that and actually putting it to good use that same day. You have 24 hours to get that task done. So let's use our time so that we can get it done. And when they come back in the morning, they come back with results. They come back with adding 3 and 4 new customers. They've come back with adding a partner to their team. They've come back with some interesting situations that they were able to work themselves through because of the tools that they had and some of the discussion points that they got out of the discussion. So sometimes they'll give feedback on what points actually allowed them to get through that situation. So that is our 90-day training session in a nutshell. That's how we're doing it. You may find something that works better for your team, but that's what has built this, you want to call it sudden success, but that's what has actually built the success in our team. It's actually a teamwork. It's not me just telling them what to do, but it's actually us working together. I always assure them that I have their back, that whatever support they need, I'm only a phone call or a text message away, and they use that to their advantage. From time to time, I'll get a text message with a help, and we'll communicate, get them the answers that they need so that they can go ahead and answer their questions, and they get the job done. So I really can't take that much credit for what they've done. That really is on them for the success, for their own success. But we are working together as a team, and we're really trying to help each other. We're not leaving anybody behind. So anybody on our team that actually can't meet with us, we're sharing the information in a chat so that they can benefit from what comes out of our morning discussions. But that's our story.
Wow. 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 Kudos to Team Lightning. You know, as I'm sitting here listening to Mara and Sandy, I just, what's in my mind is C squared, C squared, C squared. Commitment, consistency, those two together, and look out how exponentially it's grown this team in such a short period of time. You know, when you told me what you were doing, I was just like, every day, I wonder if they're doing it on the weekends. And yes, they are. And I'm like, holy cow, how many of us would commit to an hour a day for 90 days? That is some serious commitment. And then follow it up. Like you said, your Team Lightning just kept showing up. You guys, I'm not surprised. And, you know, I think about the training that you're doing, that they're grabbing hold of it and they're running with it. And it's that action. You know, it eliminates fear, it eliminates laziness, it eliminates a doubt, and all that stuff is eliminated. I'm so inspired. Anybody else inspired out there to commitment and consistency? And wow, look.
Can I just say something really quick? Can I just
I'd
pop
love
in?
to.
First of all, that was so well done. And I think that something that you should feel so proud of is like, you weren't sure how to do this, and look at you leading by example, right? You're not just saying, hey, let's do this. You're saying, hey, let's do this. And let me show you how. I think that's one of the most important things. And here's what's great about 90 days. I'm actually doing a 90-day focus with my team right now. And here's what's great about 90 days. A lot of times that first 30 days, it's a lot of conversations and a lot of connecting. So I call it 3 C's: connections, conversations, and consistency. So very similar, just commitment's not in there, but we can make it a quad. So I can add that in there. But what's great is I feel like the first 30 days, you're going to get a lot of traction, but you're doing a lot of planting. And then the second group of 30 days, now things are really starting to kick in. That momentum from conversation after conversation really starts to kick in. And then so now you're going to like double down on those conversations, because now the follow-ups are more consistent, right? Everything builds momentum. The last 30 days is straight magic. I did a 90-day focus in 2019 with my team, and there was 8 of us. We did 90 days, similar. So we didn't do a daily thing, which I love. But we did 90 days, 10 conversations a day. And we ended up adding in 90 days, like over 200 customers, just the 8 of us. 200 customers and 35 team members. But I'll tell you, first 30 days was strong. Second 30 days was stronger. But that last 30 days, from everything that you were doing up to that point, it's magic. So whoever's doing it, my gosh, stay the course. And here's the best part, and I hope that this screams to each of you. This isn't fancy. She's not jumping on one foot, doing this. And this wasn't about posting on social media. This wasn't about creating invites. This was about doing what it takes to build your business. And that is having conversations and making connections. Every single person can do this. I think we get wrapped around the fancy that we forget the simple. And man, Maura, this is just so well done and executed, focusing on the simple. Just brilliant. Really, really, you should be so proud of what you're doing. This is fantastic. Fantastic.
Wow, what a way to finish us off, Stacy. I love it. Thank you guys for being on the call. And wow, it's like I can't wait to get busy. All right, thanks everyone. I appreciate everyone getting your team on here, and let's have conversations within our smaller groups of what the next 90 days looks like for all of us. So, all right, thanks again, Maura, Sandy, for what you shared. Powerful. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye,